Mr. Mahesh Khetan, Vice President and Global Head Supply Chain, Grasim Industries Limited, 𝗦𝗂𝗃𝗲𝗄. Mr. 𝗨𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗲 𝗦𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗄, who is Global Head of Supply Chain at Sun Pharma, and Mr. Venkata Krishna, Solutions Director at 𝗥𝗲𝗀. And this panel will be moderated by Majush Koshy, who is Senior Platform Manager at 𝗥𝗲𝗀. Please welcome the entire panelists with a huge round of applause.
Hi everyone. Good evening and happy to see all of you here. And this session is going to be a panel discussion from the leaders who have been there, done that in the supply chain world. And all of them are introduced. We are specifically seeing quite a few changes. When we look at a global level, which is actually not applicable to India, okay, it comes with a question mark. When you look at emerging markets, whatever things applicable elsewhere is not applicable for emerging markets. And the way you manage in emerging markets of supply chain is actually totally different. Above all of these things, we also get pandemic, whatever actually, Suez Canal blockage, Russia, and what problems, jam, everything. So all these things are coming. So let me just actually first ask Aniruddh, what are the things which you are seeing in the emerging market? Like, what are the typical challenges on emerging markets, and how you managing it?
So, Majush, just quick clarification. When you say emerging markets, you're talking about India and this, so you're talking about Africa and South America. What exactly context are you talking? Just to clarify.
Classified is actually developed market and emerging market. Did not give actually Africa, India, Asia.
Okay, so I think when you look at the developed versus undeveloped or developing economies, the challenges are both in terms of pricing, in terms of market reach, in terms of infrastructure to go meet those needs. For India, since we're sitting in India, let's assume that we are still a developing economy, right? $3 trillion, but let's say we are still a developing economy and there's some way to go in that. So I think the biggest thing that we have today is that the market is growing at a pace in certain sectors. At least I can talk about automotive. So we are seeing unprecedented demand in automotive at this point in time. So from an automotive standpoint, what we are seeing a challenge is the supply pipeline. Demand we are able to manage, but I think ability to fulfill that demand over the required time frame is a challenge because capacity has become a constraint. So initially the problem was more supply focused. I think now it's more capacity focused, while we've been able to capture the market and have higher demand coming in. I think the demand fulfillment side is where we are struggling a bit. Order book looks healthy, financials look good, margins are high. I think commodity prices are coming down, inflation is pretty much under control, but the currency valuations and then the global situation with the Russia situation and the Ukraine situation, China being in a lockdown, all these, Germany currently having a lot of macroeconomic and environmental issues in terms of gas supply and so on and so forth. So I think all of these, because supply chain is connected, part of our supply chain is international. Mostly it is domestic right now, so we're able to manage those challenges, but I think we are very, very fine-tuned to the fact that the input cost that we get into a product and the margins that we maintain to stay competitive, those challenges we are currently dealing with at a macroeconomic supply chain level.
Thank you for that. So, next question I have is for So we are actually seeing quite a few disruptions. So one, we all discussed and it has come up a pandemic situation. The pandemic has come, and then when pandemic came, we all thought it's one-off case. Okay, don't generalize it, it will pass on. And then came Russia and Ukraine war, then Suez Canal blockage. So it is actually like these uncertainties and events which are happening are becoming certain. So we can't write off. I know some people, some software companies itself created systems to write off, to discard those data. These are special items. But now what we are seeing is it's becoming this answer. The events which are happening like this are disrupting on a regular basis. And my question to you is actually how is actually it's impacting, how these disruptions are impacting the supply chain, what you have seen. We know it's impacting, but actually we want to go one step deeper. What are the impact of all these new challenges? So, can you please?
So, I mean, the biggest and the first and the foremost impact is people sitting in this room who manage supply chains have become very important. Yeah? On a lighter note, actually on a serious note, yeah, because all the CEOs otherwise always used to think that supply chain guys are the back office guys, you know, and they do whatever they do, but now they have actually come to the, you know, yeah, to the limelight, and, you know, supply chain discussions have become boardroom discussions. I heard Venkat speaking about CPG companies. I heard him say that he worked for ITC 15 years. I worked for the consumer goods industry for 25 years, yeah, between Unilever and Reckitt, and I can tell you, supply chain was definitely not in the center of the stage. Today, I can bet an arm on it that, you know, supply chain is the center of the stage of discussion. So that's one of the biggest impact, okay. But coming to a serious note, in fact, as you said that, you know, these black swan events, the so-called black swan events have been far too many in the last 2.5 years. Yeah, I mean, in the last 30 odd years of my work life, I have never experienced the Suez Canal blockage. Neither did I experience, of course, COVID, nor did I, of course, I mean, the geopolitical situations have been there. Yeah. But having said that, we as supply chain professionals, do we need to take cognizance of these things and plan for these events? My personal answer would be, it's not going to be easy to plan for these events. Yeah. And the only shift in terms of the mindset, if I may use the cliche saying that, you know, supply chain people are very good in terms of just-in-time inventory optimization. I heard a couple of questions here and there. So, you know, we will also have to kind of think, of course, just in case, supposing another event happens, how do we bolster our supply chain? How do we make sure that we are keeping continuity of the flow of our products in the market? So, two things, as I said. One is that, you know, supply chain has become the center stage, and the other thing which I would say is that, you know, the mindset of from just in time to just in case, yeah, became very big. The cost of capital was so less because everybody, all the governments started pumping in so much money during the COVID period. Of course, not in the last, let's say, 2-3 months where the interest rates have been going up. And I mean, I also got an alert that, you know, the US markets have again fallen today by about 4%. Okay. So that part, I'm saying when the interest rates were so low, people increased the inventories. The inventories lasted for a little while. And then, as Aniruddh mentioned just now that the demand has picked up, the capacities have become an issue. So to cut a long story short, how has it impacted these events? They have brought us to the center of the stage, number one. Number two, they have actually forced us as a community in terms of saying that, you know, it is not just in time only. We have to also start thinking just in case any of these things, any of these events happen, do we have a business continuity plan? Do we have an alternate source of supply? Do we have alternate capacity? If there is a sudden jump in demand, how do we service? If there is a sudden fall, is there an alternate routing of the existing materials which we can do to liquidate? And those are the things which also have become very important for us to discuss amongst the supply chain community. So these are two things I would say have brought in the way we think and the way we are perceived, both ways.
Yeah. So the ways of traditional working. So the supply chain, how it was some 5 years back, or actually 7 years back. So it was not like this. What we're doing, seeing now. So what are the changes? I mean, still many companies are doing the traditional way of business. So, and in your experience, is there any challenges of traditional ways of working unearthed? So, something you can add on that?
Again, it's a very good question. I would like to take the question in two parts. Are the traditional companies, are the old companies still doing traditional ways? Very largely, yes. But are they adopting newer technologies like what you guys bring to the table? They would want to, with a little bit of caution, I would say. Yeah. And various industries will be at different stages of adoption. Some companies would do it faster, some companies would do it slower. Yeah. And but having said that, this is going to be the way of life. Yeah, I mean, I saw Venkat talking about data. You know, the way analysis is done at a lowest possible granularity level, and so on and so forth. And people have been talking about data being, the next oil for this business world and so on and so forth, and therefore ability to capture data and also, I would say, process it for meaningful decision making is going to be very important for us. Yeah. So in terms of your answer, the first answer is yes, a lot of companies are still traditional. I would personally want to see they move a little more faster than what they are, despite COVID. I would say COVID definitely has had a lot of tailwinds in terms of people adopting a lot of digital technologies. Maybe I'm also in the pharma industry, and pharma industry is not one of the first to adopt any of these things. And my feeling is also perhaps, colored with the background which I have for the last 5 years. Let me put it this way. Yeah, but definitely the future is not this. I can only say that, the future is what you guys will bring to the table. And there will be a lot of automation. I mean, look at any disruption. For example, today we are talking about, let's say, electric cars, which is a field which you guys work in, yeah? And I don't know how many of you know this guy called 𝗏𝗧𝗏. He is actually one of the thought leaders. He has said that by 2030, 70% of the cars being sold in the world will be electric cars. And this he said 4 years ago. And if you perhaps go and ask him now, he will talk of 2028, not even 2030. Yeah? So, with all these inflection points of ability to capture data has gone up so much today. Because of cloud, the ability to process large scales of data, etc., has become far more cheaper. So, to get meaningful decisions out of all that clustered data and unstructured data will be far more valuable in the times to come. And I personally feel that is the way to go. I don't know if I've answered your question or I've been too roundabout.
Data is very, very important. Actually, your data-based decision which is actually supported by data and data decision systems, that will give a buffer to whichever company. Yeah, it will give a push. Okay, and it is not that these things will not occur again. These eruptions will occur.
Yeah.
But how faster the companies are able to respond and actually adapt themselves to whatever is happening. You won't know what's happening, what's going to happen in next month. So how faster you can suit your play according to that. Thank you.
No, I also want to give you an anecdotal evidence of what used to be 5 years ago, what demand planners were doing and what they are doing today was one of the things, yeah. So they were doing a lot of Excel worksheets and heavy lifting was being done a lot manually. And all these new technologies which you're talking about will actually assist them to do their job more efficiently and more accurately. I wouldn't actually say that these jobs will not exist tomorrow, yeah. It is not something like in the next 5 years, the bank teller's job, the person who is actually distributing cash is actually going to vanish. That is not going to happen for the demand planning guys. Yeah? But what will happen is that they will be assisted with these technologies to actually do the job much more efficiently and much more accurately.
So just quickly adding to that, see, data is a very interesting topic, and I'll say depends on who's looking at that data. Everybody can look at the same set of data and give you different conclusions. Okay, so those of us who worked in the industry and traditional ones, every day in the morning, if we get up and we start looking at a supply chain, orders, fulfillment, fill rates, inventory. The sourcing guy will give a different interpretation, the operations guy will give a different interpretation, the planner will give a different interpretation, the sales team and customer care will give a different interpretation. So democratizing data is great, but not all functions can collate the information into actionable insight. That is a skill set which I already said, that is a skill set for the future, and it is the knowledge worker who will come trumps, and we should start promoting that, because the amount of time, energy we spend disputing data and talking about why this is wrong and why this is not, I think that should be straight away taken out. Because at the end of the day, all this costs the company money and time. And money and time is something that if you are in a low margin, highly competitive business, you just can't afford. Those who can afford, in my opinion, maybe the pharmaceutical industry, because your margins are high. Being spare parts, which I manage, margins are extremely high. So just remember, when you next time go and get your car serviced, you should realize that it's a high margin business. And as long as you can sustain and you're profitable, the inefficiency is accepted. But trust me, if I am putting money into a business and I see how companies today operate, the traditional ones, I would start to expedite that a lot quicker, because there's so much money being left on the table. There's a lot of money being left on the table. This is my opinion.
Thank you. So my next question is to Mahesh. Mahesh, you've been in this, we have heard from manufacturing point of view or some pharma point of view, and you've been in this retail and fashion industry for long before in this group. So fashion industry is something have a very short lifespan. It rises and then ends in months or sometimes weeks. So similarly, actually, I read somewhere that in India, the lipstick color, it's a very famous thing. So lipstick in the south appears to be more of purple, and lipstick in the north is more of reddish. And there was a statistic published, every 7 postal codes, the lipstick color changes across India. So kind of I'm coming to the fashion specific nuances or retail specific nuances. So can you explain on what is your point of view, or maybe the industry, what you're going through in the retail and fashion? So how are you cooperating with all these challenges?
Yeah, so maybe let me quote a couple of examples. I mean, prior to the business where I'm working, I was with 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗏 Fashion, say Madura, and they own some of the top men's formal brands like Louis Philippe, Van Heusen, Alan Solly, Peter England, and so forth. So they launched an initiative nationwide where a promise was made to any customer entering a store of Madura that you select a shirt of a particular design and particular color and all. And if your size is not available in that store, you pay, and within 24 hours, that shirt will be delivered to your house. So that was called All India One Stock Location. That means All India is one stock. So the background work which was needed to fulfill this commitment, and that too from 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 kind of a commitment, was tremendous. There was theory of constraint involved. Goldratt was hired to implement this initiative. Lots of demand planning softwares, both at the planning level, at the warehousing level, at the supply level, and at the manufacturing level, because the factories are owned by Madura. So, how it was done was, visibility was provided to each and every store, and I'm talking about almost 1,000 stores that time, I'm talking about 10 years back. Visibility of stock or inventory was provided to each and every store manager of all the stock points across the country, which is like thousands of stores, warehouses, and the factory. So, if the store does not have say a 40 size white shirt available, he can check on his computer, on his system, which is the nearest store where it is available. If it is not available in the nearest store, whether it is available in the same city. If it is not available in the same city, whether it is available in the nearby cities. If it is not available in the nearby cities, whether it is available at the central warehouse at Bangalore. And if it is not available even at the warehouse, the factory used to manufacture that one shirt within few hours and used to ship it to the customer at this. So there was a unit production system and lean which was implemented at the factory, which facilitated the factory even to manufacture one piece. And I'm talking about a business where 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that time used to sell about 1 crore shirt in a year. Today it will be multiple of that. So, and this was the situation when, still they are number one brands. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, these were the number one brands by far in terms of revenue, in terms of sales and EBITDA by the nearest competitor. So, of course, the challenges in fashion industry, as you rightly mentioned, are different. Shelf life is just one season. In India, there are 2 seasons, autumn, winter and spring, summer. And if it does not sell in a particular season, it goes for the end of the season sale. It does not sell in the end of the season sale, it's just out of your thing, it goes to the factory outlet, and so on. So there are lakhs of SKUs, new SKUs, which are introduced every year, and lakhs of SKUs which go away from your system every year or every season, every 6 months, I would say. So, what I'm trying to, through this example, what I'm trying to establish is everything is possible. If you take example of Zara, one of the best supply chains, not just in the fashion industry, for any kind of industry, to take examples from Zara, how they crunched the lead time. So the Zara designers from attending many fashion shows in Paris and Milan. The reason for that, these designers, they used to attend the fashion shows, and a particular company or a particular brand is presenting their designs in the fashion show. By the time that company could launch those products into the market, Zara used to launch the same designs much before that. So how they could do that? So they crunched their lead, they had innovative ways to crunch their lead time. The fabric used to procure from China. By the time it reaches Europe, in the ship they used to stitch it and convert it into a garment. And by the time the final garment used to reach to the Europe, and they used to supply to the store and sell it before the original designer could even launch it, because they had the standard lead times of 3, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. In fashion, the lead times are like 1.5 years from design to the market. Zara could do it in just few weeks. So everything is possible. One is the process diagnostic. You understand your as-is process and then design the to-be process based on the requirement, based on the market dynamics. So as the panelists have mentioned and you have also asked, that lots of disruptions happened. So did it change anything? I am of the view that there was not a single year when major disruptions have not happened, or major disruptions will not happen in future. Much before pandemic, 2018, China shut down hundreds of factories because of their environmental policy. Huge disruption in the demand and supply. Then next year, US-China trade war. US stops buying from China, I get sleepless nights in my current business, global business, because then US would be buying from other countries from where I am buying, and I will not get my raw material. In my current B2B business I am talking about. 2020, pandemic. 2021, energy crisis in Europe as well as in China. 2022, Russia-Ukraine war. 2023, we know what is coming.
We don't know.
We don't know. There are few disruptions already we can estimate in 2023. 2024 is a year of disruption by design. It is by design. Those 2 major elections, one in USA, one in India. 2024, 2 major elections in the same year. So it is a year of disruption. If some other US president comes in 2024 and says that I stop buying from China, another disruption. So there was, disruptions keep on happening. It's just pandemic has, diverged the defenselessness in the supply chain. I would say it has exposed. And it has given many people to think. Suez Canal blockage, as he mentioned, he's much more experienced than us, but he said he has never seen Suez Canal kind of blockage in his life, and that's a... So, Suez Canal blockage induced idea in one of the Indian paper manufacturing company. They imported their raw material from Finland to India as a combination of rail and ocean, majorly rail. So from Finland till Iran, they moved the material by rail, surpassing the Suez Canal, and then from Iran to India by ocean. Lead time reduced to half, from 45 days to 20 days. Cost reduced to 1/3. And now it has become a norm. So disruptions have provided opportunities. My only take is resilience. There's a kind of resilience. They came out of the situation very fast. Suez Canal did not impact. So resilience cannot be resilience capability building in an organization cannot be a one-time exercise. It has to be a continuous exercise. That's my take.
Thank you, Mahesh. A lot of interesting points coming in. I still want to know that 24 hours is still working? 24 hours?
Yeah, so then, that time they were not using very sophisticated demand planning tools and all that. They started with Goldratt, and then they matured. In last 10 years, they have matured a lot. Now they are using various platforms like O9 and all that. So they are combining theory of constraints with various demand planning tools, and they matured a lot. And it is still working. You can go to RCT Mall and check it.
Thank you.
I can vouch for it. It is working.
Okay. Maybe in the new situation they may not be facing that out of stock situation because demand planning is much more better than it was 10 years back. Venkat, actually coming to you, how are you seeing all these nuances working in the technical frame, and what are you hearing from the customer side? So, like when you're dealing with various customers and customers dealing with their suppliers, distributors and suppliers, many of them have only 2 softwares, Outlook and Excel. So actually, how are you working with all of these varying majority people, and what is that you are hearing from clients?
So we need to look at, there's no one fit, one size fits all kind of a solution. So if we look at, say, 2x2 matrix, in the sense, large tier 1 companies in developing markets and large tier 1 companies in growth markets or emerging markets, and then small, medium developing markets and small and medium, growth markets. Today, there are options for each of them, right? So if you look at tier 1s in developed markets, so they kind of sorted the basics of it. So they have the data acquisition, data management, those processes are in place. So that's where they are working on improving how do you generate meaningful insights, actionable insights from your data. So that's where the focus is on, right? So coming to tier 1s in growth markets, so they have some of the basic planning and execution systems in place. So, but only one problem I have with tier 1 in growing markets, a lot of people believe that one ERP can solve all the problems. One has to evaluate, but I believe that one ERP cannot solve all the problems. So ERP works beautifully for integrating all your internal functions. So, but from a supply chain perspective, when we look at the, outside of the organization, ERPs are not designed to work with, entities outside of your. So that's where you need collaborative tools, so which can facilitate easy movement of, transfer of data. Luckily, I think I made that point a while ago also. So now there are solutions, tools available for each of the segment. So one has to be careful in selecting what is fit for your purpose, right? So say if a tier 2 developing market company, if they go to an advanced, planning and optimization solution, it might not work for them because one, they don't have data maturity to feed in, and there is a lot of difference between basic systems of record like ERP or even a WMS, TMS, compared to advanced planning and optimization systems like say SAP, APO or your ANA plan. So these systems require continuous monitoring and fine-tuning. Right? You're looking at your safety stock definitions, you're looking at your forecasting models, you're looking at your replenishment models. So these systems need continuous monitoring, continuous evaluation, and then tweaks. Because so whereas in ERP, you set the process once, and rarely you look at that process to change, especially in the short and medium term. Maybe in the long term, you have a process tweak which needs to change. But these planning and optimization systems, they require very close monitoring and very close change. And from a affordability perspective, so now you have a whole spectrum of solutions available. And then the other changes like cloud. So now cloud gives you the advantage of you can start very small. You don't need to start a data center, buy 10 servers and then put that money in, and after that solution doesn't work for you, it's all probably going down the drain. Right? But some of these new AI cloud-based solutions gives you that flexibility to do a quick POC, see whether it's working, not working, use it, otherwise just move to somebody else.
Yeah, we're going to actually continuing to that. How do you advise to someone not getting unstuck to this? So one more thing, just adding to when you mentioned about actually networks in the presentation. So it is not that data is or information was not available. It was available with some party. Only thing, it was not available to the required party intact. somebody knew, somebody knew that this is happening. Some system is happening or some anomaly is observed. But actually, like in this, actually, like what is that companies need to do to actually move out or release themselves from getting stuck in actually like whatever they are stuck to now.
Yeah, I think Aniruddh made relevant points in this aspect. I think so. He said that there needs to be democratization of data.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
So because when I started my career, 98, 99, I started with Food World. So at the time, everybody used to think that their data is very, very important, right? You should not part with your data, But if I don't give my data to my supplier, how will he plan what he has to supply to me, right? So especially in the Indian market, I experienced that you need to be extremely careful while sharing your data. Where you are in a supply chain world and then you are working with your suppliers on one side, then your stores on the other side. So unless this data is nobody is asking you that you have product X and you are sharing the recipe of that product. Nobody is asking that. People are asking like how much are you selling? How much are you expecting to sell? So that as a supplier I need to plan. So businesses need to think what is the data which can be shared, or which should be shared for the the ultimate consumer to be served better, right? Because if any of this leg is not working, finally we are impacting the final consumer, right? He will not get the product maybe at the time he wants, the cost he wants. So one has to evaluate like what is the criticality of data, how much of it can be shared, how much of it cannot be shared, right? Having that little bit of openness to share both ways, to bring in that efficiency and therefore to serve the ultimate consumer better is critical.
So another one, this question is actually open to all. So what you feel should be the area where you will be focusing in your organization to make the supply chain more agile and flexible and all. So you have actually covered a few points during your session there. But actually, I would like to hear from you.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, digitization is definitely on the cards, and there are two extremes to digitization. One is you digitize your processes to track your routine KPIs and improve the visibility and tracking and traceability. That's what most organizations do and focus on. Second part is use digitization for the strategic decision making. So that requires a different set of initiatives and different set of mindset. For example, any disruption happening, the demand crashes or whatever, the war or anything, whatever is happening, do you need to modify your network? So network modeling exercise. Do you need to look at the emerging markets as you mentioned? Is the demand supply situation changing globally? So some countries who are like net exporters are becoming net importers. It has happened with China. Because many factories in China shut down, so they were net exporters of some products and now they have become net importers. So they are importing the products which they used to manufacture in huge quantity. So that, then you have to change your strategy completely, your procurement strategy, your stocking points strategy, your warehousing distribution center strategy, and even your customer base strategy. Because if some country has become a net exporter because of all these disruptions, that means they have sufficient quantity of that particular product available in their country and they would be able to serve the customers in that country better. And if we have some strategic customers located in that country, you may have to rethink about focusing on some other regions, some other emerging markets to create new customers, strategic customers. So this kind of strategic decision making and the lead indicators from the resilience point of view, right, can you get some early indication of some disruption which is going to happen? So the import-export data analysis of various countries, that is one source which can give that. So for our organization, at least for next 1 year or so, we would be focusing on this part of digitization where it supports decision making.
So, you know, for our organization, you know, I work for Sun Pharma, as I mentioned earlier also. Data hygiene is slightly at a primitive stage, let me put it this way. Yeah. Also because of the fact that our organization grew by way of acquisitions, there haven't been one single system, including an ERP system. We used to work with a homegrown ERP till about 4 years ago. Yeah, we were not on SAP, for example. So there is a lot of, let me put it this way, hygiene work which has to go in. And within supply chain, in my opinion, I think one of the most important things which we have taken as a project is to actually get data hygiene into the place. Yeah, and create a nice data warehouse, data lake, and so on and so forth. And then take the next step. So we are actually trying to fix our basics, let me put it this way, to start with. And the other thing is, of course, you know, we don't have a demand-supply balancing tool, in a manner of speaking, which is another thing which we are trying to look at and evaluate, you know, what is that right tool for us to collaborate between the demand side and the supply side to make sure that, you know, we are. And today, for example, we work with a little excess inventory to kind of manage those situations. I very strongly feel that, you know, we could perhaps optimize that. But those are more tactical things. I would say the two things which I would say is demand supply balancing tool to help us to do a much better job of servicing the customers and fixing the basics, starting from data hygiene and things like that. Yeah.
So we being so my organization manages the spare parts for the entire Mahindra portfolio. So you can talk about automotive, farm, trucks and buses, two-wheelers, I mean, you name it, pretty much. The planning and procurement, distribution, and the warehousing is handled by our team. So we distribute through channels. So our first effort is, while we've sorted the in-house and we are pretty much able to have visibility within our network, we do not have visibility of what's selling in the downstream nodes. So the channel partners, dealers, distributors, what are you selling, how much are you selling? We get a lot of amplification of demand, which we are not able to predict. So we are trying to get that next level into the network to try and have visibility into the inventory, into what's selling, why it's selling. Also, trying to convince them to share data. Because it's just, it's just contradictory that when we want to share data for financial reasons, then data becomes very easily available. But when you go and try and do it for optimization purposes, then the data is not available. So that mindset, and it's not that dealers, distributors don't want to. I think it's internal dynamics of how organizations are structured. You try and protect that information. So we're trying to break that barrier. And I think the change management that's going to be required, we have thousands of dealers and thousands of distributors, trying to get them to say, well, this is for your own benefit. We want to help you improve your throughput and also align, because today it's a purely push model. I mean, that's the way traditional industry works. And I think our product development life cycle, the farther away you are or the longer lead times you have to make a product, and the longer your product stays, the more inertia you have to change. So we are it's a consequence of being in the industry, but I think it's time that we are moving in that direction, and we made some first steps to make that happen.
You have something what you're seeing from the market?
Yeah, just a couple of examples in terms of Aniruddh said that fill rate is something which sales and marketing looks at it different, distributor looks at it differently, sales and marketing looks at it differently, planners look at it differently.
And the reality is what the customer
Yeah. So I will not name the company, but so the company, their supply chain department has been reporting fill rate of 96% and above. So first of all, in an emerging economy, somebody is telling 96% fill rate, then you should have your own doubts in the sense like, in a markets like this, first of all, how do you achieve, unless, it's a kind of very, very established product with very little happening in that category, because either your product, but a competition product coming in, right? Or there is a change of buying behavior. Any of these can have, impact on your fill rate, right? So why it is 96% is because, person who is taking the order, right? He has access to the inventory levels, right? So he is punching in orders where there is stock. He is just not punching in orders which are not.
That's the normal.
Because otherwise it can work against him. So you.
That is the norm. If the distributor is actually giving you money in cash, the distributor also wants to make sure that this money, he wants, he's giving cash, then getting the incentives. So you can do it. I'm not seeing that right or wrong.
But for supply chain it is not good.
There are similar examples of other KPIs like adherence to production plan. So for many organizations, you put 99% adherence to production plan, and when you get into the details, you realize that whatever they decide to produce today morning, that is considered as a production plan. Imagine why it's 99%, it should be 100% always.
No, only percentage breakdown.
Fill rate, right? You mentioned. You ask the warehouse, what is your fill rate? Well, it's 100%. Well, why is it 100%? Because I only measured the orders which came to me. The orders which I was supposed to fulfill and I didn't have in stock, it doesn't matter because I am not being measured against that, because my performance is what I got, I fulfilled, right? So one distortion of information. Another is in the supply pipeline. Instead of OTIF, you measure something called as adherence. So OTIF has a time component in it. Adherence doesn't have a time component. You can get something as long as you got it on the last day of the month. You have adhered to your requirement. But demand comes every day, right? So then you go back and say, well, material was supposed to come on day 10, you got it on day 30. No. It's within the month. So the mentality of how metrics can be distorted. Just one example, and I'm giving, in fact, two examples I gave.
Yes, to Aniruddh's point that, how do we especially encourage the trade partners, so dealers, distributors, to share data is a big challenge. So what we have seen is there are both method wherein you provide them. I think all your service centers might be running on software provided by M&M. So that data anyway. Yeah. So those come. And then you have like multi-brand stores which are selling Maruti parts and M&M parts. So we are working with some of the industries where this kind of multi-brand thing goes. So there now you can use non-intrusive ways of collecting that information. But of course there is a process involved in how do you convince him. Ultimately it gives benefit to them. But the other thing of this GST and all brought in some discipline there, because under invoicing and all of that is kind of going on. I don't say that it's finished, but it's very difficult, right? Because you raise an invoice, you get an IRN number, and then you want to reverse it and all that. So things are moving in the positive direction, both from a technology point of view and as well as the regulation point of view. I think we'll get there.
Thank you. I think we can open the floor for questions.
branch will be having certain spare parts with them, and since they have completed target to push whatever they have. And I personally think it's not a distributor bigger problem sharing of their data of sale. It's basically our sales problem that you have to meet your targets, whatever you have to sell, nothing is going there.
So I 100% agree with what your observation is. So sales team is driven by numbers. And when I say numbers, it's not even numbers at a location SKU level. They have a target, right? Rupee target. I have to do 100 crores this month. Now, what makes up that 100 crores? No clue. And I'm not being disrespectful. It's a field job. It's what you need to do. But not having specific part level information is actually a curse to people like who manage the demand and supply. You have to be specific and you have to be held accountable. So if your zone does this particular number, but you end up placing a higher order, then the question should be then, why have you placed a higher order than what you've planned? So either you commit to a quantity and stick to it. If you don't get your targets met, then that's also something that the OEM should also compensate the distributor, saying it's because we could not supply the material. You have a loss in your listing, but don't overcompensate that by putting orders for parts which you don't need, which again creates this vicious cycle. They have more inventory of what they don't need. Then the banks on which they've taken the guarantees and they're paying interest, they will come back and say, well, that material is not sold. So the whole money gets stuck in the pipeline. And when their money gets stuck, means our money gets stuck. So two things. One, if something's not available, let me just tell you one quick example. So part is in back order, right? I'm not getting this particular part. Typically, your behavior should be, well, should I divert my demand if there is an alternate, or should I say not available, when it's available I'll order. So two things happen. Because they don't have visibility of upstream, they either end up placing more orders for the same part. So demand amplification happening because parts in back order. That's some mentality is that if I'm not getting, let me order more. Maybe when it comes, I'll get more, right? So that's gaming the system. Second is, okay, I have to meet my target. I have no clue out of all this portfolio what I'm going to do and how much I'm going to sell. I have experience, but I don't have data, right? I know pricing. What should I do? 5% discount or 10% discount, but I don't know the impact on demand. See, all these things which are just inefficient at the front end create huge inefficiency in the back. So to me, like I mentioned in my note, you have to change the performance incentives for these particular channels. It's tough to do because everybody is making money. But you have to change the performance incentives, you have to change the accountability and the roles of these people, that you're not just sales guys, you're also supply chain experts who have to ensure that amplification is minimized. So I think mentality change, skill set change, and organization performance and reward structure change. I understand a lot of things which don't happen in reality, but being a purist, I believe if you don't talk about it, then nobody's going to act on it. You have to talk about it.
My question to Mr. Srivastava. What is the 𝗥𝗡𝗃 power company as a general standard? And that is also based on the demand versus supply 𝗥𝗡𝗃 or commitment versus achievement.
So the way numbers are measured, 99%. Okay.
And that will be again commitment versus achievement.
No.
That will be always 99.
But I think, what, to be honest with you, as I just mentioned very briefly, I come from a consumer industry background, and you're asking for a very specific pharma. So for the last 5 years, I've been in the pharma industry. So it was reported 99 always. I said it can't be 99, just like Venkata was mentioning. Then I said, what, we've got about 30 distribution centers across the country, and we have 30,000 SKUs. Okay, I don't care about how many orders you are servicing. Now come back and tell me on an everyday morning, this 30,000 SKU distribution combinations, how many of these combinations are you in stock for a 3-day forecasted sale? Now the number suddenly went down to 64. Okay, which means I have stock of only 64 STU distribution center combinations. And then we started working, and there were very low-hanging fruits. Obviously, now we are at, let's say, 94-95% on that number, right? And it doesn't mean that we are servicing every customer for the SKUs which I have in stock. There will be slippages, yeah. So I would put a number in early 90s for Sun Pharma, which I would consider perhaps one of the better of the lot, other than perhaps Mankind, if I were to be very specific.
Thank you.
I guess we are in between the lunch.
No, I just wanted to highlight that this is interesting conversations to have one day before a quarter end, right? For all the supply chain. Because everything you speak is striking a nerve. Yeah, this happens. But I think the point I wanted to make was, this entire piece of the sales guide. I have a friend who are right next to me. So, because their incentive is completely linked to the rupee sale, right? And they will sell what is there. And that disruption of data, I mean, we saw in COVID, right? 2 months no sale. The entire data got destroyed. The entire sales history got destroyed. Now, and I come back to Aniruddh's point about incentivizing and building the right talent around this. But I think always the focus is on, the supply chain guy being data savvy. But actually, the person who will really add value, and fantastic perspective on brand selling, but some of these aspects on how it impacts the financials of the company, I think that's my, it's not a question, it's an observation, but thoughts on that.
So absolutely, if you bring market intelligence, so let me just give you specific examples. Vendor is selling part at X% in the market because they can sell in the market. Another competitor also has a similar product, selling the same product at this particular price. And we are selling at this, because of which we are losing market share, and I think there is a room for us to go ahead and do something like this. Now this information doesn't come, is not available anyway. Somebody has to come and communicate that, right? Having 100,000 SKUs across 4,000 dealerships in different parts of India and distributorships, the granularity of that information gets lost when something comes to corporate, right? So you have a rough idea that if I'm going to have X percentage of incentive on this part, competition is doing something like this. Even north, south, east, west differs. So I'm saying it's not that the sales team or the marketing team does not have the info to share. All I'm saying is it has to be translated and brought at a level which can be actioned. Just giving me qualitative input that this is going to happen is probably good because I will make some adjustments to make it happen. But how confident am I that it's going to yield the outcome? I think that age of experimenting and then trying to make it happen, you don't have that much time. So you need to act before the customer gets dissatisfied or competition reacts. So I'm talking about knowledge addition at a granular level, which systems can capture, and the means to capture. I just feel that the push is too much on maximizing revenue and not on enhancing the needs of the customer to the point where, one player is handling and saying, I'm okay because my number is made. But what about the retailer? What about the mechanic who has to deal with the customer? So you can meet your targets because you are the big guy, you can do what you need to do. But I think that visibility of end from where it's selling, why it's selling, that level of information is not rolling out. And that's what I wanted to just make a point. But if you can add value at that level, systems and tools exist today where you can crunch it, and if you can't crunch it, nobody is asking you, that's not part of your job profile. Somebody else can crunch it and tell you that why don't we do something like this. Often though, when you are in field versus sitting in a corporate office, the observation is that well, you don't know what's happening in the market, right? I think we need to minimize that you know what's happening in the market, but then you also don't know what somebody else can tell you based on the data and synthesis and why something is happening, right? So that information can be a value add to both. You need to harmonize that.
I have a question for Mr. Mahesh. You mentioned the word on how disruption kills demand. And one of the causes of disruption. The textile business, I think, I completely on with you on this, that we are in a phase where the disruptions that have been happening since COVID or after the elections have actually killed the demand, and it's evident in the last 6 months. Cotton prices adding to that also. So, any insight you can give us on that and how digitization can help us to manage that?
Yeah, so digitization does help to give you multiple ways that digitization can help in this aspect. One is it can give you lead indicators that your demand is likely to get killed in a particular market, and you can proactively act on it by developing new markets or emerging markets. Second is, once say a demand is killed into a particular market segment, digitization can help you to identify the new markets. And I gave an example of some countries becoming from net exporters to net importers and vice versa. So you know that there are new markets which are emerging. So many times manually analyzing such a large data, because import-export data of India itself, if you go through it, if you study that, it's a huge data. And if you have to do this for some 10 or 15 countries, manually it is impossible to identify and derive some actionable points out of that, or take some strategic decisions out of that. So using analytical tools can help you to identify the actionable points or the decision-making points in a better manner. So demand is killed, either you wait for the demand to come back, or you do something about it by developing new markets, getting into the new markets.
Thank you.
More questions? Then actually we can wind up this discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you.
For being a very
Okay,
interesting.
thank you to all the panelists. Please give them a huge round of applause. And